Miami, the city of beautiful beaches, vibrant nightlife, and a very multicultural atmosphere. Let's break down the weekend. We have a lot to talk about. The Miami GP first came alive in 2022. The inaugural Miami Grand Prix took place as an interesting street track, the Florida race joining its Texan counterpart in Austin to become the second US race on the calendar at the time, and the 11th different American venue to host a round of the Formula One World Championship. Miami International Autodrome is a circuit that's one of a kind. Located at the Hard Rock Stadium with over 5 kilometers in circuit length, 19 corners, 3 straights, 3 DRS zones with an estimated top speed of nearly 320 km per hour. In 2024, victory for Lando Norris with Max second and Charles in third. Still, no pole sitter has ever won at Miami. Before we jump into practice, be sure to subscribe for future episodes and leave your comments below. Also, congrats to Max and Kelly on the birth of their daughter Lily. Will the pit crew help to change diapers in under 2 seconds flat? We hope to see Lily in racing one day. We shall see. Let's kick things off with practice. The only real practice session of the weekend got underway with a huge announcement by the FIA saying that the Miami GP extended its contract to 2041. Well, I guess F1 isn't leaving Miami anytime soon. Maybe Fernando Alonso will still be in racing. Who knows? Lando had some flashlights or torches, if you are from the UK, in his car left behind by a mechanic. Possibly a fine for the team for that mistake. Each race of the F1 season seems to give us something new. Lando in the spotlight again, nearly colliding with Esteban Ocon down the back straight. That certainly was a close one and would have certainly been a huge impact for both drivers. Luckily, in the nick of time, Esteban managed to get out of the way. Ollie Bearman bringing out the red flag with just over 4 minutes left in the practice session. Contact with the wall in turn 12 after spinning and ended up facing the opposite direction. Quite a solid hit with the right rear, possibly some gearbox damage. What do you think? Rookie mistake? Tell us in the comments below. At the end of the session, it was Oscar in P1, Charles in P2, and the new girl dad, Max in third. Sprint quali started off in a rush for this session. Everyone trying to get out the pits all at once. Jack Doohan even reporting unsafe release for Liam Lawson, even claiming his mechanic was telling him to stop. Doubt anything would have come out of that situation, and nothing did. Turn 16 will definitely be the wall to see the most action with multiple cars tapping the wall. Charles and Gabriel Bortoleto reporting contact. Nothing that damaged their cars though. Antonelli looked impressive in SQ1, at one point setting the fastest time on the grid. Unfortunately, Yuki Tsunoda was out of SQ1, didn't have enough time to get a time lapped in. Maybe lap traffic was an issue, or was it Yuki on this occasion? Did Max impede him as well? How do you think Yuki is doing in the Red Bull car so far? Let us know in the comments below. SQ1 sees Stroll, Bearman, Tsunoda, Doohan and Bortoleto exiting the session. Jack Doohan was very upset with the release from the garage with his teammate Pierre Gasly, being very expressive on the radio, calling the strategy to send Pierre out first as a joke. How did you see that incident? Let us know in the comments below. SQ2, turn 16, strikes again, with Pierre Gasly hitting the wall quite hard, surely affecting his time. Sainz slow in the last part of SQ2 with a huge lockup and running off track, totally destroying his lap time and chances of getting out of SQ2. We see Hülkenberg, Ocon, Sainz, Gasly and Lawson exit this session. And then there were 10. SQ3 had a surprise. Youngest pole sitter in history, beating out Sebastian Vettel's previous record, was none other than Kimi Antonelli. What a drive by Kimi to take pole position by 4/100ths of a second for his maiden pole position at only 18 years old, at a track he has never been before. Oscar and Lando finishing second and third, Max in fourth and George rounding out the top 5 for the sprint race. Let's talk about the sprint race. Only 19 laps for this sprint race. Might be one of the shortest on the F1 circuit, I'm not sure. One car missing from the grid for the sprint, a driver crashing on the way to the grid. Charles Leclerc crashing on the intermediate tires, having to speak with the stewards after the incident since he didn't stop immediately after the contact with the wall. It is a penalty for Charles or the team. Which one is it? What's your thoughts? Let us know in the comments below. Rain came down in Miami with a typical Florida quick shower, making every team having to choose between full wets or intermediates. Formation lap being led by the safety car due to the conditions. Visibility might be an issue as well, especially if you're not in pole position, as Kimi Antonelli is for the first time in his career. We saw Oscar reporting that visibility is horrible in P2, so can you imagine Yuki, who is starting in last place, probably can't see very far in front of him. The current world champion locking up and going off track, barely missing the barriers, and again on the radio another driver, Kimi, saying he can't see a thing behind the safety car. And Oscar came on the radio again, saying that the visibility is worse he has ever seen in a race car. That's saying a lot for the conditions. Eventually a red flag for the race and everyone back to the fast lane in the pits. First to fourth in the first corner for Kimi, claiming Oscar pushed him off. I don't think that was the case at all, as we can see from the replay. How did you see it? Comment below. Some good battles between Ocon and Sainz, and also Hamilton and Albon. Not a lot of overtaking, especially since DRS wasn't enabled until later on in the race. Yuki taking the gamble to swap from inters to medium tires, also Hamilton gambling to go on the soft tires on lap 12 of 18. Not sure if that was a good gamble for the Ferrari team. Drama all around on lap 13. Sainz brought out the double yellow and driving the car in an unsafe manner, possibly a penalty or fine for the team. Pit lane drama between Max and Antonelli, making contact, unsafe release for sure on the Red Bull team, 10-second penalty for Max in the sprint race. Safety car came out due to Liam making contact with Alonso on lap 14, sending him into a spin and then the wall. This was certainly a dramatic end to the sprint race, ending under the safety car due to all the debris on track and recovering Alonso's car. Norris taking the win and Piastri in second, while Lewis securing third, taking advantage of the early pit stop to get rid of the inters. Ollie Beerman also receiving a penalty for an unsafe release into the path of Nico Hülkenberg, which moves Pierre Gasly into the last point position for the sprint race. Now, let's move to quali. A pretty straightforward quali session, some close brushes with the wall, but nothing to phone home about. After Q1, we lost Hülkenberg, Alonso, Gasly, Stroll, and Beerman. Beerman not doing so well in qualifying, whether it's a sprint or the previous races as well. Max setting the fastest time after the first session. Following next are the pair of the McLarens. Jack Doohan showing that he could have probably made it out of SQ1 for the sprint quali if he wasn't impeded by his teammate in the pit. Q2 showed some improved pace for the Ferraris and a very good start to the session for Carlos Sainz, at one point being second fastest on track. His teammate Albon also found some pace in the Williams. This track certainly suits the Williams car. After finding the pace, Lewis qualifies 12th. So I guess the pace disappeared somewhere along the way, had an issue in turn 17, but the frustration continues at Scuderia. More on that in a bit. Mr. Saturday, aka George Russell, seemed to be struggling big time with the Merc, even saying on the radio he has no confidence in the car and the car is sliding all over the place. Setup issue maybe? Was it the tires or is it a driver issue? What's up with George in Q2? Your thoughts, comment below. Battery issues were seen for Hajar and they managed the situation during the entire session, but not enough to get out of Q2. So for this session, we lose Hajar, Hamilton in a frustrated Ferrari, Bortoleto, Jack Doohan and Liam Lawson. Q3, Max sets a time of 126.2, which was good enough for pole position. The McLaren surprisingly had lost out some pace to start second and fourth after a mega drive from Kimi Antonelli to qualify third. Lando seemed to have lost some time on turn 17, taking a lot of the apex and apologized to the team for being quite terrible. But P2 for the race start isn't bad in my opinion. Now let's talk about the main event, the Miami GP. Max with a great start from pole, but a lock-up into turn 1 and Lando saw a chance to take the lead, but Max held it off. Contact in turn 2 between Max and Lando though. Lando of course saying he got pushed off the track on the radio to his team, caused him to lose 4 places. For that incident, I think Max was slightly ahead into the corner, but with the new rule of being alongside the mirror, it might be under review. And it was, and no further action was the decision. Some contact with Doohan and Lawson as he had a puncture, which eventually brought out the virtual safety car. Lovely move for Piastri to overtake Antonelli on the restart on lap 4, with the other McLaren of Lando Norris getting past Alex Albon as well on the same lap. Lando's car was a rocket ship as he dismissed George Russell fairly quickly by lap 7, which is exactly what he needed to do in order to fight for the podium. What are your thoughts on the tire choices of the drivers? Was the medium the better choice or starting on the hards paid off? Let us know in the comments below. We saw George and Alonso eventually struggle on the hards, with Alonso even spinning and luckily missing the barriers. Piastri and Max had a long fought battle bringing the excitement, but by lap 14, Piastri got the overtake done, Lando closing the gap to Max at a rapid rate. Max clearly struggled to keep the McLarens behind on this occasion. Red Bull and McLaren swapping places on lap 18, with Max almost running into the back of Lando. Second place went to Lando after the battle at the end of lap 18, but can we talk about the gap that Piastri created after passing Max? By lap 19, Piastri was almost 9 seconds ahead of the entire pack. That's a proper rocket ship that the McLarens have right there. Ollie Beerman had an issue about mid-race and eventually brought out the virtual safety car, which does the Ferrari of Lewis Hamilton well as he came into the pits. And following the Ferrari was the McLaren to take advantage of the time you save under a safety car. The virtual safety car played very well into the hands of George Russell, coming out of the pit ahead of Max and on the mediums as well, the faster tyre. And then Bortoleto complaining of engine issues, saying he can't drive the car like this, and finally told to box and retire the car. End of the race for him. He couldn't make it back but brought out another virtual safety car. The Williams pair making some moves on Merc and Ferrari, definitely suiting their car setup and a good use of their tyres. Great weekend for Carlos and Alex. Unfortunate for UK with a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane, he just couldn't get it slowed down in time. The third virtual car came out and requiring the cars backing it down to 40% of racing speed. Bortoleto couldn't make it back to the pits. Max on the radio telling the team to check if George slowed under the yellow. As much as Max doesn't like the stewards, he certainly acts like one on the track, right? And George said on the radio, lifted for the yellow, almost as if talking to Max, right? What do you think? Now onto a sore topic. I think Lewis is properly frustrated with Ferrari. Lewis clearly on the faster tyre and having more pace than Leclerc, but being told to stay within DRS of Leclerc. Why? And finally, on lap 39, the switch was made, but only after Lewis said this is not good teamwork and telling the team about China and have a tea break while they are at it. Frustration continues for Lewis, definitely at the Scuderia team, but then Charles started to complain as well, saying he's now stuck behind Lewis and said to tell him to go faster. So the team dynamic is very interesting at the Ferrari team. Later on lap 52, Charles got a radio message to say swap with Hamilton, but Lewis isn't swapping immediately. Apparently, they told Charles first but didn't tell Lewis. Wow, that's some communication breakdown big time in my opinion. What do you guys think? How is it going at Ferrari and what can they do? The messages from Lewis are comical to say the least. Race engineer telling Lewis the time of Carlos Sainz behind, and Lewis responds, do you want me to make him pass as well? That's just hilarious. Lawson, the 4th retirement of the race. Interestingly, all retirements have been rookies. That's weird, right? Great win for Oscar Piastri, well deserved, in a different league than everyone else in today's race. Second for Lando, if he didn't have those early incidents, he more than likely could have taken the win, right? What are your thoughts? And to round out the podium is the Merc of George Russell that kept Max at bay for this one. Next up is Imola, the world famous track that has been a part of F1's history and had its foundation stone laid in March 1950, long before I was born. It was ready for testing by October 1952, while racing began at the circuit in 1953, with F1 being held for the first time in 1980. Ferrari will for sure be looking to get on the podium for this one. That's all the time we have for this episode. Be sure to check out our other episodes of Let's Talk F1. Share your comments below, join the discussion, and consider hitting that subscribe button. That surely helps us out a lot. Also, check out our merch at ModzCity.com. We feature some F1 inspired merch as well, plus new merch is out right now. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, this is Let's Talk F1.